What if everything you've been told about a good life is a lie? What if success, wealth, popularity, and comfort aren't the things that actually make life meaningful? Across history, the greatest minds have argued about this question. From ancient temples to modern cities, in quiet monasteries, and in bustling marketplaces, humans have searched for the answer to one of the most haunting, urgent, and beautiful mysteries we face. What makes a life truly good? Not just pleasant, not merely impressive, but deeply and enduringly good. And here's the strange part. For thousands of years, philosophers, sages, mystics, and thinkers from every corner of the world have proposed radically different answers. Some claimed the good life is about virtue. Others argued it's about pleasure. Some said it's about transcending desires entirely, while others insisted it's about chasing your passions relentlessly. So who was right? And more importantly, what can we learn today in our overstimulated, anxious, modern world from their wisdom? Let's travel back 3,000 years to a time when philosophy wasn't a university subject, but a way of survival, a map for the soul. In ancient Greece, one of the earliest voices in this conversation was Socrates. He declared, "The unexamined life is not worth living." For him, the good life wasn't about external achievements, but about inner inquiry. Socrates believed that asking the right questions about justice, love, courage, and virtue was the only way to truly live. He walked through Athens challenging citizens, provoking them, forcing them to confront their beliefs. And he paid the ultimate price, sentenced to death for corrupting the youth and questioning the gods. But he died with serenity, claiming a good life is one where you remain loyal to your soul's pursuit of truth, no matter the cost. His student, Plato, took the conversation even further. In his famous work, The Republic, Plato imagined an ideal society where people lived according to their nature and strengths. He taught that the good life is one of harmony, where reason governs desire, and the soul is aligned with higher truths. Pleasure wasn't the enemy, but it had to be guided by wisdom. In his metaphor of the cave, Plato described ordinary life as shadows on a wall, with most people mistaking illusions for reality. Only those who dare to climb out of the cave and face the painful, dazzling light of truth could glimpse the good life. And yet, once they see it, they have a duty to return and help others find their way. Then came Aristotle, Plato's brilliant student, who gave one of the most enduring answers. In his Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle claimed the good life is about eudaimonia, a Greek word often translated as flourishing or human fulfillment. For Aristotle, happiness wasn't a fleeting emotion or a moment of pleasure, but a long-term state achieved by living virtuously, fulfilling one's potential, and contributing to society. He argued that everything has a purpose, and humans are meant to reason and live in community. Courage, generosity, honesty, and wisdom. These weren't abstract ideals, but the habits of a good life. He believed you didn't become virtuous by accident. You had to practice it daily, like a craft. But while the Greeks were contemplating virtue, halfway across the world, in ancient India, philosophers of the Upanishads were exploring a radically different idea. They claimed the good life comes from transcending the ego, from realizing that the self is an illusion, and that we are all one with the infinite consciousness, Brahman. The sages taught that clinging to material pleasures and personal achievements only leads to suffering because everything in the world is impermanent. The path to a good life, they said, was through meditation, renunciation, and the direct experience of unity with the divine. Buddha, born as Siddhartha Gautama, took this message and refined it into a practical philosophy. After witnessing sickness, old age, and death, Siddhartha left his royal life in search of truth. Under a Bodhi tree, he attained enlightenment and became the Buddha, the awakened one. His teaching was simple yet profound. Life involves suffering, caused by attachment and craving. The good life is one of inner peace, compassion, and mindful awareness, free from the endless cycles of desire. Through the Eightfold Path, right action, right speech, right livelihood, and so on, anyone could liberate themselves and experience nirvana, a state beyond suffering and self. In China, meanwhile, Confucius offered a different answer. He believed the good life is found in harmonious relationships and moral responsibility. It wasn't about escaping the world or suppressing desires, but about cultivating virtue through proper conduct, respect for elders, and devotion to family and community. Confucius taught that by perfecting the small rituals of daily life, how you speak to a friend, how you honor your parents, how you fulfill your duties, you shape your character and create a just society. For Confucius, the good life was inseparable from social harmony. Around the same time, another Chinese sage, Lao Tzu, presented a mystical vision in the Tao Te Ching. He spoke of the Tao, the Way, an invisible, eternal force that flows through all things. Lao Tzu taught that the good life is one of effortless alignment with nature, where one stops resisting and instead moves with the rhythms of the universe. He praised simplicity, humility, and spontaneity. In contrast to Confucius's structured rules, Lao Tzu urged people to unlearn, to trust the wisdom of silence and the power of stillness. When nothing is done, he wrote, nothing is left undone. Centuries later, the Roman Stoics picked up the Greek torch and adapted it for a world of empires, wars, and personal ambition. Figures like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius taught that the good life comes from mastering your own mind. External circumstances, wealth, health, reputation, are beyond your control. What matters is your response to them. By cultivating reason, accepting fate, and practicing virtue, you could achieve tranquility in a chaotic world. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, wrote his meditations as private notes to himself, reminding his soul to stay humble, to endure pain, and to find joy in small, honest deeds. His wisdom still resonates. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. While the Stoics focused on inner control, the Epicureans offered a gentler, more hedonistic vision. Founded by Epicurus, this school taught that the good life is about seeking pleasure, but not reckless indulgence. Epicurus distinguished between necessary and unnecessary desires. The good life, he said, is marked by simple pleasures: friendship, good conversation, the beauty of nature, and freedom from fear. He argued that by removing pain and anxiety, especially fear of gods and death, we could experience ataraxia, a serene state of contentment. The ancient world was filled with these competing visions, each offering a different path to the good life. Some urged discipline, others surrender. Some chased wisdom, others pleasure. Some found meaning in society, others in solitude. But all agreed on one thing: a good life isn't accidental. It requires reflection, courage, and choice. And it begins with asking the right questions. And that question still haunts us today. In a world obsessed with metrics, followers, income, possessions, it's easy to mistake quantity for quality, noise for meaning. We chase what we're told to want, then feel empty when it arrives. But what if we dared to pause, to listen to these ancient voices? What would they tell us? Would they recognize our struggles, or would they laugh at our restlessness? Would they see echoes of their own lives in our modern dilemmas? The answers are closer than you might think, because buried within their diverse teachings lies a timeless pattern, a set of recurring truths about what humans have always longed for: belonging, purpose, freedom, and peace. Some found it in virtue, others in pleasure, others in surrender, but all sought the same invisible treasure, a life that feels truly, unmistakably alive. And as we move deeper into this labyrinth of wisdom, we'll discover that the question isn't simply what is a good life, but for whom, when, and why. Because your definition of a good life may not be mine. And perhaps, just perhaps, the journey to that answer is the most beautiful part of being human. If there's one truth that threads through the wisdom of 3,000 years, it's this: a good life is not handed to you. It's something you build, moment by moment, decision by decision. And while the philosophies of the past differ in form, their hearts beat with the same desire: to uncover what makes existence meaningful. But to truly understand their wisdom, we must see how each philosophy is not just an idea, but a response to a world in crisis, a world that mirrors our own more than we might expect. Consider the Stoics once more. Born into an age of political corruption, betrayal, and endless war, they didn't deny the harshness of life. Instead, they faced it with a defiant, almost rebellious, calm. Seneca, a statesman forced to witness the brutality of emperors, wrote letters about the importance of gratitude, simplicity, and focusing on what lies within your control. His words were not gentle comforts for the privileged, but tools for survival in a ruthless world. Epictetus, born a slave, taught that though your body can be imprisoned, your mind remains your own. And Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire in chaos, reminded himself daily that he was dust and would return to dust. The Stoic good life was one where you became unshakable, rooted not in pleasure or power, but in virtue and self-mastery. Across the seas in India, Buddhist thinkers wrestled with a different crisis: the endless dissatisfaction of the human heart. Even surrounded by abundance, people felt restless, envious, and afraid. The Buddha taught that this craving, this insatiable hunger for more, was the root of suffering. His answer wasn't denial, but awakening. Through mindfulness, compassion, and detachment, you could experience the profound peace that comes from realizing nothing lasts, and that's perfectly fine. To live a good life wasn't to grasp at things, but to release them, to savor the present without clinging to it. Yet not all philosophers preached withdrawal. The Epicureans, often misunderstood as reckless hedonists, proposed something surprisingly delicate. Epicurus believed that many of life's greatest pains came from unnecessary desires: the craving for fame, wealth, or immortality. By stripping life down to its simple pleasures, a good meal, meaningful conversation, the laughter of friends under the open sky, one could achieve contentment. And this wasn't selfish, for a person free from fear and excess is more generous, kinder, more at peace with the world. Meanwhile, Confucius watched as kingdoms collapsed, and families were torn apart by war and ambition. His response was a call back to order, not through force, but through virtue. The good life, he taught, begins with small acts, honoring your parents, speaking with sincerity, showing loyalty to friends, practicing humility. He believed that by perfecting the tiny, daily rituals of life, you slowly shape yourself into a person of character. And when enough individuals cultivate this inner harmony, society itself transforms. Confucius never sought to escape the world, he sought to repair it, one heart at a time. In the deserts of the Middle East, mystics and prophets added their voices. The Sufi poet Rumi wrote of a good life not built on dogma, but on ecstatic union with the divine. He spoke of love, not the fleeting romance of poets, but a consuming, boundary-dissolving love for existence itself. Let yourself be silently drawn, he wrote, by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. For Rumi, the good life wasn't found in books or doctrines, but in the direct, trembling experience of beauty and presence. The medieval Christian mystics echoed this longing. Figures like Meister Eckhart and Teresa of Avila described the good life as an intimate, often wordless relationship with the infinite. They spoke of losing oneself in God, not as a way to escape suffering, but to transcend it, to transform agony into grace. Life's trials were not punishments, but opportunities to deepen one's connection to the sacred. As the world entered the Renaissance and Enlightenment, new voices emerged. Thinkers like Montaigne questioned whether philosophy itself was too rigid, too detached from the messiness of real life. In his essays, Montaigne explored what it means to be fully human, to laugh, to fear, to love, to fail. He believed the good life was not about reaching some perfect state, but about embracing our imperfections, learning to be at ease with uncertainty, and finding delight in small things. Later, existentialists like Nietzsche and Sartre confronted a world where the old certainties of religion and tradition were crumbling. Nietzsche declared that to live a good life was to become a creator of your own values. In a world without inherent meaning, the bold soul forges their own path. He warned against living passively, following the herd, or accepting second-hand beliefs. Instead, he urged people to become what he called the Übermensch, an individual who dances with chaos and sculpts beauty from it. Sartre, writing in the aftermath of world wars, insisted that humans are condemned to be free. There's no script, no cosmic instruction manual. The good life, therefore, is one you invent through choices and actions. Even choosing not to choose is itself a choice. Sartre believed that meaning arises not from what happens to you, but from how you respond to it. At the same time, in Japan, Zen masters offered their own answer. They taught that the good life is one of presence, simplicity, and awareness. In a world obsessed with progress, Zen invites us to slow down, to see the sacred in the ordinary. A cup of tea, a falling leaf, a silent moment, these are not distractions, but doorways to the infinite. The practice of sitting in stillness, doing nothing, was seen not as laziness, but as a radical act of freedom. Even modern psychology, perhaps unknowingly, echoes these ancient ideas. The concept of flow, coined by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, describes a state where you are so immersed in a task that time dissolves and the self disappears. It's a moment of pure being where action and awareness merge. This, too, is a vision of the good life, one not built on external rewards, but on deep engagement with what you love. What unites these diverse traditions is a realization. The good life is not something you stumble upon. It's cultivated. It requires courage, the courage to question inherited beliefs, to confront your fears, to risk failure, to choose meaning over comfort. It demands self-awareness, the willingness to look within, to see your own contradictions, to own your desires and your responsibilities. And it calls for presence, the ability to savor this fleeting, fragile moment, knowing it will never come again. Some philosophies teach that happiness lies in virtue. Others say it's found in pleasure. Some urge detachment, others engagement. But perhaps these are not contradictions, but complements. Perhaps the good life requires both discipline and joy, solitude and connection, contemplation and action. Perhaps the wisest lives are those that learn to dance between these poles, refusing to be caged by any single creed. And maybe, above all, the good life is one lived awake, not sleepwalking through days in a haze of distraction, but noticing, feeling, questioning, choosing. It's the life of someone who refuses to live on autopilot, someone who asks, as Socrates did, "What kind of soul am I becoming?" Because in the end, no one escapes suffering. No one is spared loss, disappointment, or death. The good life isn't about avoiding these things, but about facing them with open eyes and an open heart. It's about finding beauty not despite life's fragility, but because of it. And so, as we gather these fragments of wisdom, a deeper question arises. Is there one universal good life, or are there as many good lives as there are human beings? Is the good life a single shining path, or an infinite branching forest, each trail leading somewhere precious in its own way? To answer that, we'll have to go even further, to trace how these ancient insights echo in our modern struggles, how the old questions still shape our restless hearts. And in that search, you might just find your own definition of what it means to truly live. In the modern world, we live surrounded by noise. Advertisements promise happiness through possessions. Social media measures worth in followers and likes. Productivity gurus equate busyness with meaning. In this storm of distraction, the ancient question of a good life has not disappeared. If anything, it's become more urgent. Because now, more than ever, we risk mistaking a full schedule for a full heart. And yet, beneath the surface, the timeless truths still whisper to those who are willing to listen. In the hurried footsteps of crowded streets, in the glow of screens late at night, the old questions stir. What am I doing with this one brief life? What kind of person am I becoming? Am I chasing what matters, or what merely distracts me from the emptiness inside? Modern philosophers, psychologists, and thinkers have not abandoned this quest. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, offered one of the most profound modern answers. In the horror of concentration camps, where pleasure was absent and suffering was relentless, Frankl discovered that humans can endure almost anything if they find meaning in it. He argued that life's primary drive is not pleasure, as Freud claimed, nor power, as Nietzsche suggested, but meaning. The good life, Frankl believed, is one where you find a reason to live, a why that allows you to bear anyhow. For some, that meaning comes from family. For others, from work, art, or service. It might be found in beauty, in nature, in the quiet ache of trying to make sense of the world. Frankl insisted that meaning is unique to each person, and no one else can dictate what yours should be. You must discover it for yourself, often through struggle, loss, and difficult choices. Another modern voice, Albert Camus, faced a similar dilemma. Confronted with the absurdity of life, a universe that offers no inherent answers, and a human heart that cannot stop asking, Camus suggested that the good life is one of rebellion, not in violence, but in refusing to surrender to despair. In his famous essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus imagines the condemned figure endlessly pushing a boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down. Yet Camus insists we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because in choosing to continue, to find meaning in the struggle itself, he transcends his fate. In our own lives, the boulder takes many forms: grief, failure, loneliness, doubt. The good life is not one where the boulder disappears, but where we learn to push it with grace, even joy, precisely because the act of trying makes us alive. Meanwhile, the ancient wisdom of mindfulness has made its way into neuroscience and therapy. Studies confirm what sages knew for centuries, that a mind trained to be present, to witness thoughts without attachment, cultivates greater resilience, clarity, and peace. The good life, in this sense, is not necessarily grand or dramatic. It's found in a quiet cup of tea, a walk beneath trees, a conversation that lingers. It's built in small, daily acts of attention. And so the question circles back: is there one good life or many? The answer, perhaps, is both. The traditions we've explored, from Socratic inquiry to Zen stillness, from Stoic courage to Epicurean pleasure, from Confucian duty to Sufi ecstasy, are not competing paths, but complementary tools. Life is too vast, too unpredictable for a single formula. What nourishes the soul at 20 may no longer serve at 40. What feels like truth today may feel like a cage tomorrow. A good life, then, is one lived in conversation with itself. It asks questions, listens for answers, adjusts course when needed. It recognizes that meaning is not found once, but made again and again, in each season of existence. And it accepts that no life will be perfect, but every life can be worthy. The poet Mary Oliver once asked, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" It is not a rhetorical question. It is the most important one you will ever face. Because the good life isn't something waiting for you at the finish line. It's not hidden in the next promotion, the next relationship, the next milestone. It's woven into the texture of now, into the way you greet a stranger, the courage with which you face uncertainty, the honesty with which you confront yourself. Perhaps this is what the philosophers were pointing to all along. Not a life without pain, but a life that feels true. Not a heart free of longing, but a heart brave enough to long for what matters. Not an escape from suffering, but a way to let suffering deepen you, sharpen your vision, widen your capacity to love. In the end, you will not be measured by how much you accumulated, how many people envied you, or how efficiently you moved through your days. You will be remembered by the lives you touched, the moments you were fully present, the ways you chose to grow in the face of difficulty. The good life is one that leaves the world a little more beautiful because you existed. So perhaps the real question is not, what is a good life? But what will your good life look like? Will you seek it in knowledge, like Socrates, in harmony, like Confucius, in resilience, like Marcus Aurelius, in love, like Rumi, or in a quiet, humble gratitude for the simple gift of being alive? The beauty of this ancient, ongoing conversation is that it makes room for you. The map of meaning is vast, and while the philosophers can offer you lanterns, only you can choose your path. To live a good life is to become an artist of your own existence, painting with the colors of joy and sorrow, certainty and doubt, solitude and connection. And maybe, if you're lucky, you'll discover that the good life isn't something far away or complex. It might be as simple as sitting with a friend, watching the sky shift, knowing you are here, fully awake, and that in this single, fragile moment, you are enough. The final truth is this: no one else can live your life for you. No one else can define what makes it good. But if you dare to ask, to listen, to risk, and to feel, you might find, as the ancients did, that the good life was never about perfection. It was always about presence, about meaning, about becoming the most honest, awake, and wholehearted version of yourself. And that, after 3,000 years of philosophy, might be the most precious wisdom of all.